Twitter, Thinking Sideways, drop the G, and we are on the Twitter. And we have a subreddit, Thinking Sideways. Any action on that lately, Devin?
Some?
Okay, there you go. And of course, you can also support us by buying merchandise. There on our website, you'll find a link to Zazzle and Redbubble, where you can get shirts, mugs, stickers, and God knows what else.
All kinds of stuff.
All kinds of good stuff.
All of the things.
Yeah, murder weapons.
No.
Well, I mean, a mug can be a murder weapon.
It's not marketed as a murder weapon.
No, it's not. It's a paperweight.
We don't make murder weapons.
Yeah. And so that's about it. So anyway, until next week, folks, this is Thinking Sideways HQ signing off. And like I said, send us an email. Tell us what you think. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Talk to you guys next week.
Thinking Sideways is not brought to you by otters swimming around in pools of Cool Whip. Instead, it's brought to you by you meeting us. Woohoo! If you are in the Portland metro area, or can be in the Portland metro area, we're going to do a meetup on October 14th, 2017 in the Portland metro area, actually in Portland. We don't have any details yet, so check Facebook or Reddit or Twitter for details to RSVP, because we need to know how many people are coming. We hope to see you and meet you on the 14th. Bye!
Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Thinking Sideways. I'm Joe, joined as always by
Devin?
And
Steve!
Okay.
You almost said Joe for some reason.
What the hell?
You were looking at him.
Don't even think about it, dude.
It's hard to keep our aliases straight, you know?
I have a hard enough time with my regular name, apparently.
Yeah.
We're just going to go by numbers starting next week. But
I'm 17.
yeah, for this week, I'm still Joe. And we've got a mystery for you, believe it or not. We're going to talk about a strange death. A guy named Zygmunt Adamski. Happened in England 37 years ago, and if you're listening in the year 2050, well, you do the math. This is 2017. Before we go any further, though, I'd like to give a shout out to our listener, Savannah, who suggested this about a year and a half, 2.5 years ago, actually.
It's been a while.
Sorry, Savannah. I hope you're still alive. But if you are, you know, hey, shout out. Also, I had tip to Robin Warder over at Trail Went Cold, because he used to write for Cracked, and he wrote an article about this particular little mystery.
Oh, was that Robin's art? I so rarely read the author line.
Actually, I don't know if you noticed this about Cracked, but they
don't.
put the author's name in very, very tiny font.
That may explain why I never noticed it.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, back to our story. The year was 1980. Zygmunt Adamski was an immigrant from Poland who lived with his wife, Lottie, in the village of Tingley, England. And I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that correctly because I've seen various videos, interviews, stuff like that. I first assumed it was Tingley because who the hell would name their town Tingley? But apparently...
Tingley.
The British.
Yeah.
So anyway, now that we've gotten hate mail started, let's keep going.
Yeah, it's at Tingley is in West Yorkshire. I'm sure you all know where that is. But if you don't, it's about halfway between London and the Scottish border.
Duh.
The northern part of the country.
Yeah. Zygmunt worked as a coal miner in the Lofthouse Colliery pit, which is a fancy term for a coal mine. The mine was about 2 miles east of Tingley, and Zygmunt had been married to his wife Lottie for... Not really sure. I've heard various stories about they met in Poland and emigrated together, or he met her here, and we don't really care.
Well, we don't really know.
We don't know, and it's not really that relevant to our story anyway, exactly when he came here, when they met.
More than like a year.
Yeah, more than a year.
Yeah.
They were not newlyweds.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Not at
I
all.
think that would be an interesting point if they were newlyweds, but
that's a
we
good
don't really
point.
care once
Yeah,
they're not.
she would obviously be the murderer. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know her age, but I do know that he was 56.
Oh,
at the time
so
this happened. So
Probably married a long time.
Probably.
Okay.
I'm guessing.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And also Lottie, his wife, had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, sadly, and by 1980 her condition was deteriorating. So much so that Sigmund had applied for early retirement from the mines so that he could care for her full time, and apparently his request was turned down.
Ugh.
Which is ironic because that mine was closed down about a year later. As with a bunch of government processes like that or industries.
Yeah, and maybe that was it. Maybe they might have even known about it and they just sort of said, hey, you guys, you're going to close down anyway. Why don't you let me go early? I don't know.
Yeah.
But
They
yeah,
probably didn't have to pay his pension, and they just closed down. Would be my guess.
I assume, I don't know.
It's hard to say.
I think
that
closed down or
situation.
not. I think these were union jobs. I think the pension was there no matter what.
Great.
Yeah.
Never mind then.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's that?
I don't think they were
I
actually.
thought-
'cause that's why
they
no,
were.
because there's social assistance. But when all of those mines shut down, remember all the strife that happened in England for about a good decade or two because of all of that industry that moved and people just got left in the lurch.
Uh-huh.
So I don't think was actually a guarantee. But
Yeah, I don't know. Well, luckily for Sigmund, he didn't need to find out.
Yeah.
okay,
Ugh.
good
Sorry.
point.
Silver lining. I
Yeah,
guess.
there's
Jerk
a
point,
silver
but
lining
good
to
point.
everything, right? So on being the wedding, his goddaughter was getting married, and he was the one who was going to give the bride away, so that was going to be a big day
Aw,
for
that's-
him.
yeah,
I
that's a
know,
special
I
day.
know. But the day before, Friday, June 6th, something happened. First, they had some family members who were in town for the wedding. They had them over, his and June's wife did, and had them over for lunch. And then after lunch, he excused himself around 3:30 p.m., left his house in Stingley to, he said, go buy some groceries.
Ostensibly.
Ostensibly.
I see it
Yeah.
here.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. It's there for you.
Thank you.
And Sigmund never came back. He passed a neighbor on the way and said a few words to him. So apparently that neighbor, whose name, of course, is unknown. There's a lot of unknown people in
Always
the story. Yeah. He was the last known person to see Sig alive.
This unknown person was the last known person.
Yeah,
Yes.
unknown.
Gotcha.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
That's he's an unknown known.
It's a very unspecific.
Got it.
Yeah, exactly. And leaving the house and not coming back was kind of unusual behavior for Sigmund, who wasn't noted for going off on benders. Everybody knew him, said he was a regular guy, likable, very dependable, and just an all-around solid human being. Not the kind of guy that just goes flittering off and leaving his wife. So it was unusual, and so of course, and it was also unusual because his wife did have MS, and she kind of needed care. So he wasn't
Yeah.
the kind of guy that was just going to take off and
Yeah.
leave her in the lurch. And so Lottie, of course, and the family figured something must be up and reported him missing to police. And I don't know how much of a search there was for Sigmund. I think probably mostly it was kind of an APB kind of situation. The officers were told to be on the lookout for him, but I don't think they were really beating the bushes, looking really hard for him.
56-year-old immigrant. I doubt they were too awful concerned.
It's not quite the same as when a 7-year-old kid gets lost.
Right.
Right?
Or a
Yeah.
pretty young girl.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Yeah.
What was that thing I saw? Sorry, it's a bit of a
Yeah,
tangent.
yeah.
I saw there was
That
something
thing,
recently.
white girl syndrome.
No. It was somebody saying to their friend like, "Hey,
Oh,
I
yeah.
wish I was pretty," and they said, "Well, go missing," because I've never heard of a girl who's missing who hasn't been a beautiful or pretty young girl. So
Very good point.
he was not a pretty young girl. Maybe he would have. I don't know. He
No,
could have been pretty.
I've seen pictures of them, but they're kind of low res.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say. And as far as police action, I'm not sure how really in-depth the investigation was, because I mean they might have actually gone into it in quite huge depth, but unfortunately we don't have any access to the records because apparently it's still considered an open case.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there have been some people that have tried to investigate this a little more carefully, and the police have just basically said, hey, you got to talk to the coroner's office. They have all the records. And then you go to the coroner's office. The coroner's office says, well, these are kind of like public records, but you're not actually what we would consider to be an interested party, so you can't see them.
That phrase
Yeah.
is just so well defined. Oh,
Yeah.
you're not an interested party, as in you have an official interest in this story, so buzz off.
Exactly. I mean, obviously they were interested.
Yeah,
I mean, hey,
I'm asking.
by definition, they were interested parties, but not by the government definition. And the press also at the time did not get too terribly interested in this until almost a year later, and for reasons we're going to talk about, but it did become a thing eventually. The search ended for Sig 5 days later on June 11th when his body was found in the town of Todmorden, which is about 20 miles west of Tingley, and you can find it on, of course, the aerials if you look on the internet. And the body was laying face down, and there are accounts that say it was face up, but I have reason to believe it was laying actually face down.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was
Because
like,
that's how I weighed him.
yeah, good point. So the body was face down on top of a large stack of anthracite coal in a coal yard next to the Todd Morton train station.
By the way, that coal was in nuggets. It was basically briquettes.
Yeah, small.
Yeah, it was
wasn't big.
man-formed nuggets
Yeah,
of coal.
not big fish-sized chunks.
Or raw, dust and powder kind of. It was something that had been formed by.
Cracked down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Nice.
I saw a lot of questioning online and things with people saying stuff, and I was like, you guys didn't obviously understand what kind of coal this was, or else all of this questioning wouldn't make sense. So that's why I wanted to make
Yeah.
sure we pointed that out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that is a good point, by the way. Because a pile of coal can mean anything. It could be piles of chunks of coal the size of your head,
Or
the
powder
size of
and dust,
or
or
the
anywhere in between.
grains of size of peas, or
Mm-hmm.
who knows? Yeah. So,
Any other units of measurement you want to call it there?
kilometers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stone.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Light
Garden
years.
stones, yeah.
Yeah. So back to the Todd Morton train station. This coal yard was right next to the station. If you look at the area view on the web, you can find the train station pretty easily. It's just to the west of the A646 highway, and according to the best information I could find, the coal yard was just to the southwest, right next to the train tracks.
And wait, let me guess. It's not there anymore.
No, it's not. 'Cause-
Surprise.
Yeah, coal's not quite so popular these days. Don't ask me why, but it's not. It looks like there's a car park there now. Yeah.
Different kind of coal park. Got
Yeah, exactly. But the pile of coal was reportedly about 12 feet high, and Sigmund was on or near the top of the pile. So he was up there a little ways. So the question, our mystery, well, what was Sigmund doing in a coal yard in Todd Morton? He had no friends in that town, had no other business there that anybody knew about. And another question is, well, why was he dead? And where had he been for 5 days?
it. Yeah.
Big questions that have not been answered yet. The coal yard at that time was being run by a guy named Trevor Parker, who was the son of the owner. And he said he had been there in the morning till about 11 a.m. I think he left to do deliveries.
Yeah.
And when he left, he closed and locked the gates. And when he came back at 3:45 p.m., well, he found a body laying on top of a pile of coal. He called the ambulance and called police.
Well, he never actually went up to the body.
I don't know. He was not sure that it was somebody dead or somebody.
He thought it was a drunk. He was hoping it was a drunk.
He was thinking it was a passed out drunk or something like that.
I think that's what you hope, or a mannequin.
I don't want to go
Yeah.
near it. I'm gonna.
You hope
stay-
it's a drunk person or a mannequin, and
Yep.
just call somebody.
Exactly, yeah. And then so he called an ambulance and the police. Apparently the ambulance got there first, and that's why it appears to me the body was face down. The ambulance guys got there. The statement by one of the policemen said, well, he was laying face up, but he had coal dust on his face. And so
I can see why you would think that he
appears
was
that
face
the
down.
ambulance guys actually turned him over.
Like you would do.
And then the police, you would, of course. And the police show up. Well, he was laying face up. But yeah, he was face down, I think. So we got a body. One of the interesting things is there did climbing up the pile. At least that's one of the constables who was there that day was quoted as saying that. He said it was undisturbed. There were no signs that anybody had climbed up or down it. This led to some speculation later that Sigmund had been dropped on the coal pile by a UFO.
Well, I'll dispute that later. I'll
Oh,
wait.
yeah.
I'll wait till the theories for that.
Okay. And of course, another reason for this UFO speculation was that the constable I just mentioned was named Alan Godfrey, who was involved in the Todd Morton UFO incident about 5 months later. That is kind of a famous, or semi-famous at least, UFO mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is well known.
It's funny how, like, whenever police are involved in a UFO mystery, suddenly it becomes, like, very credible.
Yeah.
You notice that?
Yeah, I know. Well, actually, Godfrey doesn't seem like a total nutcase, to be honest. But anyway, enough about the Todd Morton UFO incident. That's how the story finally got to the front pages. It was months after Sigmund died. Suddenly some newspaper guys put the two together. They realized, oh my God, the policeman had been there at the coal yard, and then he has this encounter. There must be a connection, and so all of a sudden there was all this speculation in the tabloids that Sigmund was abducted by the aliens, and then died, and the aliens dropped him on the coal pile. Yeah,
And then
We'll talk more
saw
about
the
that
police officer
later.
decided to track them because aliens are just weirdly, they just follow people like that. Okay, yeah, sure, yeah,
something
okay.
like that. Yeah,
We'll talk about all that in theory.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little more. That is one of the theories out there, though, about the UFO abduction, and that's why he disappeared for 5 days. Personally, I think that the fact that a guy vanishes, turns up 5 days later in a coal yard that he should not have been in a town he had no business being in, on top of a coal pile that he had no reason to climb to the top of, and then dead of apparently natural causes, to me, that's actually a pretty interesting story in and of itself. It's
I
pretty
agree.
weird, don't you think?
Yeah.
And even without the UFOs.
Well, then the UFO bit feels tacked on. So it's like, how did this not make the papers prior to this?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it made the papers in some way, but it really seems like it needed the UFO angle before it got legs, I think. And the problem with the way the press investigated this, I think, is that it seems like they only really went at it from the UFO angle.
Yeah.
Instead of going out and interviewing family members and trying to find out if maybe there was somebody out there with a grudge.
Oh, you mean doing
Sigmund.
investigative reporting?
Yeah, doing that kind of thing. Yeah.
Overrated.
I know. I'm sure the police did some investigating on that score, but of course, as you know, as I've already said, their records are kind of closed. So because it's an open case, and that's why when we talk about this mystery, there's so many people like an unknown person said this, but his name is unknown, etc. But let's go back to our dead body. According to the accounts I've seen, Sigmund's clothes were actually in good condition, so they weren't filthy, so he wasn't sleeping in the gutters for the 5 days that he was missing. His wallet and watch were missing, and his shirt was gone also. Yeah, his trousers had apparently been incorrectly buttoned, which makes you wonder if somebody dressed him after death.
Presuming by shirt you mean his collared shirt.
Yeah, he had a vest on. Yeah,
so not a T-shirt, but his collared shirt.
Did he have an actual vest on, or did he have a British vest on?
He had a string vest.
He had a string vest on. Yeah, whatever that is.
Okay.
It's like a string bikini, maybe.
Well, I was just gonna say, because in British terms, a vest is actually an undershirt, and then what we call vest is like the undercoat. I don't remember what they call it.
Yeah.
Waistcoat.
It could have been that. Yeah, just about all the sources I've seen for this are British. So, and I always do have a little bit of a problem with that. I mean, I'm starting to figure out that honey bucket means toilet.
Well, that's the problem, is that there's no photos of the body. The photos you will see online are all reenactments.
Yeah, but on the BBC, I think there was somebody like that.
Yeah.
Those aren't really the body.
Okay, so I'm sorry I interrupted you. So you were talking about his pants.
Yeah, the pants were incorrectly buttoned. There are other accounts out there, by the way, that say his jacket was buttoned wrong and his pants were unzipped. So, as always, conflicting accounts. Topside again, wearing a vest and a jacket. There were no bruises, cuts, or contusions. It did not appear that he had been in a struggle with anybody. He wasn't strangled or beaten to death or anything like that. Also, the coroner reported it looked like he had shaved within the past day. And most interestingly, he had some strange burns on the back of his neck and his shoulders. Burns had a kind of greenish ointment on them, which was never identified.
So it wasn't just aloe vera, because aloe vera tends to be kind of a weird greenish ointment.
Well, I don't know how hard they tried to figure out what it was.
Alien goo. It's just alien goo. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably that stuff.
Alien antiseptic.
That goo from Ghostbusters. Yeah. There was an autopsy done that very evening. The coroner concluded the time of death was between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. that same day, the 11th of June. So that means if Trevor Parker left the coal yard at 11 that morning, sometime very shortly after that, Sigmund Adamski wandered into the yard and died of natural causes on top of that coal pile, or he was murdered and brought to the yard and left there, or maybe he died and brought to the yard and left there. Those are kind of our options, or UFO'd there.
That last one was UFO'd there. Got it.
Yeah, he was also UFO, maybe. Coroner also determined that the burns on Sigmund's neck and shoulders were about 2 days old. Because you guys have been burned. You know what that's like.
Yeah.
They start out looking kind of pink and fresh, and then they're kind of gnarly a few days later.
Depends. Yeah.
Exactly. Because of that, police checked hospitals, emergency rooms, clinics in the area to see if he'd been treated for the burns, and they found nothing. And the burns were also unique in that they were well defined. So it's more like contact burns than burns from an open flame. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they weren't amorphous
Yeah.
in their shape.
What
Yeah.
shape were they?
They were kind of, I think, kind of rectangular.
Oh, were they
Kind of-
rectangular or circular?
Well, I mean, they were roundish, but I thought that they were kind of like hot dog shaped, but
Oh.
I could be wrong.
Okay.
So you heard I mean, I've heard.
I
all
got
kinds
yeah,
of
I got the
different
impression that they were circular from the
Uh-huh.
stuff that I read, but again,
Yeah.
never seen a photo of it.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oblong,
conflicting
kind of. Okay.
information, but the burns seem to be confirmed though. I mean, they definitely are confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
He did have
Birds themselves, yes.
How the shape of the burns and what caused the burns? Was it flame? Was it acid? Well, that's still up in the air. And there are a few theories out there about the burns, which we'll talk about. And police did find in the course of their investigations that signals from an acupuncturist.
Ugh.
Yeah, I'd never had these. That involves putting a cotton ball soaked in alcohol into a small glass jar or a bamboo cup, putting the jar on the skin and lighting the alcohol. And I guess it's supposed to be a treatment for rheumatism and some other ailments.
This is one of those crazy treatments. It's like there's that weird treatment for when you've got stuff in your ear.